The day of my graduation was meant to be the moment I finally felt recognized. The stadium shimmered under the soft warmth of May, filled with navy gowns swaying in the breeze and families waving their phones like tiny flags of pride. When my name rolled through the speakers, Elena Grace Monroe, Master of Data Analytics, I instinctively lifted my eyes toward the rows marked for family. The metal seats glinted back at me, untouched and painfully empty. There wasn't even the faint suggestion of someone lingering for me. I tightened my grip on my diploma and managed a smile for the photographer. It felt stiff, almost artificial, but it was the best I could do. All around, the air buzzed with celebration. Students folded themselves into their parents' arms, bouquets exchanged hands, and tears blended with laughter. I drifted to the side, close enough to blend in, far enough to be invisible. A nearby family even asked if I could take their photo. I agreed, pretending my own smile hadn't collapsed hours earlier. When the ceremony ended, I lingered near the courtyard, pretending to scroll through my phone so I wouldn't look as isolated as I felt. Ruby, a classmate of mine, spotted me and rushed over with a squeal, pulling me into a hug before her parents captured a picture of us. She scanned the crowd after, her expression flickering with confusion and the question she didn't want to ask. 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother. No congratulations. No acknowledgement of the milestone I had reached alone. Just a brief request. Need $100 for your sister's sweet 16. It was a reminder of how invisible I had always been in that family. I sent a single dollar back, attaching a short, "Congrats." Then I went home and changed my locks. For the first time, the silence in my apartment didn't feel heavy or lonely. It felt like the beginning of something I had never allowed myself to claim peace. "Where's your family? Running late?" I lied. The words slipped out easily, polished by years of repetition. By the time I reached the parking lot, the sky was painted in shades of gold, a soft evening sun glinting off car roofs. Balloons bobbed lazily above hoods, kids' laughter mingling with the sharp blare of car horns. I stayed in my battered Civic, gripping the wheel, watching from a distance. For a fleeting moment, I pictured them walking toward me, Mom waving, Avery bouncing in glittery sneakers, Dad carrying a bouquet. The image vanished the instant engines roared to life around me. I shouldn't have been surprised. They had skipped my college graduation too. Mom's excuse then was Avery's finals, while Dad didn't even bother to call. There was always a reason. Always something shinier, newer, more important. My teenage years had been spent trying to earn love like a scholarship, juggling 2 jobs, sending money home, saying yes to every request. At 16, I wore a worn Starbucks apron at dawn, serving caramel macchiatos to lawyers and nurses while my own family was preoccupied with Avery's piano lessons or a field trip that needed just a little extra. The first time Mom said, "You're our pride," I believed her. I thought love sounded like recognition. Now I know it was obligation disguised as affection. When I was accepted into grad school, I told myself that this degree would finally be different. That this time, my accomplishments might actually mean something. I had thought that if I achieved enough, if I proved myself capable, indispensable, irreplaceable, maybe she would finally see me as more than a backup plan, more than a steady paycheck disguised as a daughter. I believed that success could somehow bridge the distance between us. I didn't yet understand that even accomplishments could be twisted into another excuse to take, rather than to give. 3 days after the ceremony, with the cap and gown still hanging by the door, my phone buzzed. "Need $2,100 for your sister's sweet 16? No congratulations, no questions about the ceremony, just cold numbers and a deadline wrapped in the quiet weight of expectation." I stared at it, and in that moment, something small, worn out, and long ignored finally stirred. The phone dimmed and locked itself while I lingered over the message. $2,100. My eyes traced the digits again and again. For years, money had been their language of choice, replacing love with obligation. But that day, it landed differently. It didn't slide off me like it always had. Perhaps it was the quiet that followed graduation. The hollow echo of all the applause that hadn't been for me. Perhaps it was simply that I had finally run out of reasons to keep buying affection that had never existed. I opened my banking app. My savings stared back barely $3,000. My chest tightened, and something inside me hardened. I typed in $1, added a brief note, "Congrats," and hit send. The single word "sent" glowed on the screen, and I let it linger there. Then I walked to the drawer by the front door, retrieved the spare key my mother had insisted on keeping for emergencies, and let it fall into the trash. It thudded against the bottom and stayed there. For the first time in years, the silence that followed wasn't heavy or lonely, it was mine. That night, I called a locksmith. He arrived about an hour later, an older man with a quiet voice, moving with a practiced calm as his tools tinkled softly, like wind chimes in a breeze. The new lock clicked into place, solid, final. When he left, I lingered in the doorway for a moment, breathing in the faint scent of oil and metal. It was the first boundary I had ever built for myself, and it felt strangely alive. The next morning, sunlight poured into my small apartment. I brewed coffee and watched the steam curl from the mug, and for the first time, I didn't flinch at the silence. It was mine. No one could enter uninvited. No one could demand anything. Peace had a sound, and I was finally hearing it. Until the knocking began. Firm, rhythmic, persistent. My heart froze. It wasn't Mrs. Patel, my landlord, who always called first. I peered through the peephole. 2 uniforms filled the hallway. "Denver Police," one said. Calm and professional. "Miss Reed?" I opened the door, heart hammering. The taller officer, a man in his 30s, black, showed his badge. "We received a call from your mother. She's concerned because you've been changing locks and not answering calls. She worries you might harm yourself." I almost laughed, not from amusement, but from the absurdity that bordered on tragic. She had quietly obeyed my wishes, and now this was the result. His eyes softened. "We just need to make sure you're okay. Mind if we step inside?" I let them in. My apartment was immaculate, coffee mug on the table, laptop open with my latest project on the screen, diploma framed on the wall. I gestured around. "Do I look unstable to you?" The officer's mouth twitched into almost a smile. "Not even close, ma'am." They asked a few questions about work, stress, and family. I answered honestly. Just finished grad school, applying for jobs, no medical issues, just boundaries. He nodded. "We'll file the report as no concern," he said. "But if your mother calls again, you can reference this visit." As they turned to leave, he added, "Sometimes when people start standing up for themselves, others panic. Happens more than you'd think." When the door closed behind them, I leaned against it, shaking not from fear, but from fury. My mother hadn't just crossed a line, she had declared war on it. That night, I sat on the couch, the police report still fresh in my inbox, and for the first time, I let myself feel the full weight of what standing up for myself really meant. I replayed the years of manipulation in my mind, the way she had guilted me into sending money, always whispering, "Family helps family." Whenever I hesitated, it had never been about care, it had always been about control. I didn't yet know the full extent of what she had done, but if she was willing to involve the police to humiliate me, I realized there were no limits to what might come next. Suddenly, the silence in my apartment didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the pause before a storm, and I was done waiting to be struck. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. The city lay quiet beneath a soft haze. My phone sat face down on the table beside the police report. I hadn't heard from my mother since she had sent the officers to my door, but her silence felt strategic, not reconciliatory. I brewed coffee and opened my laptop, intending to bury myself in job applications, but instead, I checked my banking app. A pit opened in my stomach. 2 new credit inquiries blinked back at me, Capital One and Discover. Both recent, both unfamiliar. My chest tightened. I hadn't applied for any new cards. Clicking through to my credit report, I froze. 2 accounts had been opened in my name, my social security number, my previous address, but not this one. My parents' house in Littleton. The balances were already climbing, thousands of dollars spent. Then, I saw the charges. Cherry Creek Events, Denver DJ Agency, Glam Studio. My mother's text from days ago hit me like a gunshot. Need $200 for your sister's Sweet 16. It hadn't been a request, it had been a setup. I called the number on the statement, voice trembling but steady. "This is Elena Monroe. I need to report identity theft." The woman on the line verified my information, paused, and said, "This account was opened in person at our Littleton branch last month. Colicant Linda M. Reed." For a moment, everything stilled: the hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock, even my own breath. "Ma'am," the representative continued carefully, "we'll flag this for a fraud investigation. You'll receive forms to complete within 24 hours. When the call ended, I sat frozen, staring at the screen. It was all there: my mother's signature, her phone number, her address. She hadn't just used me for money, she had become me to get it. I opened my voice recorder. Colorado's one-party consent law meant I could legally record our next call. I dialed her number. 3 rings. She picked up, her tone sharp. "So, you're alive." "Mom," I said evenly. "I found 2 credit cards opened in my name, both using your address. Do you want to explain that?" She laughed. A hollow, practiced sound. "Oh, that? I was helping you build credit. You should be grateful you're paying for Avery's Sweet 16. Stop dramatizing, it's family money. What's yours is ours." "No," I said softly, each word deliberate. "What's mine is mine, and what's yours is under investigation." Silence fell immediately, heavy and stunned. Then came a sharp inhale. "You wouldn't dare." "I already did." I ended the call, saved the recording, and labeled it Boundaries. May 17th, 2025. Morning light spilled across the floor, catching the edges of my diploma and the new lock on the door, 2 proof points that I had earned everything on my own. And now, for the first time, I was protecting it. The silence in my apartment no longer felt like a pause before a storm. It was the storm, and I was holding the thunder. Later, I met them at a diner in Highlands Ranch, neutral ground halfway between their house and my peace. Cracked leather booths, coffee that never tasted fresh, perfect for public quiet and impossible screaming. They arrived 15 minutes late. Mom first, wearing a floral dress and sunglasses like armor. Dad followed, smaller than I remembered. Avery trailed behind, phone in hand, thumbs flying, the golden child never looking up. "Elena," Mom said sharply as she slid into the booth across from me. "You really made us drive all the way here for dinner." "We're not eating," I said. My voice surprised even me. Steady, cold, and final. We talked. The waitress appeared, poured coffee, and vanished. I slid a brown folder across the table. Inside, 2 credit cards opened in my name, Capital One and Discover, both tied to their address, both used for Avery's Sweet 16. Mom's smile flickered, barely noticeable. "Oh, honey, I did it for you. You need credit history." I was helping. "Helping?" I said softly. "You forged my signature." She waved a hand, dismissive. "Don't make this dramatic. It's family. You've always been so ungrateful. Do you think the world doesn't know who paid for your education?" I laughed sharply, the sound slicing through the diner and turning heads. "You mean me? I paid for it, every check, every double shift, every loan you told me to take while my college fund went to Avery's prom dress." Avery groaned. "Here we go again." I turned to her. "That silver dress you wore for your party, you danced in it on a card opened in my name. Enjoy the spotlight." Her eyes darted away. Mom's voice cut through sharply. "You agreed to this. You don't talk to your sister that way." I leaned in, voice quieter but firm. "I didn't steal from you, Mom. You used my identity. You called the police on me because I changed my locks. You tried to make me look unstable so you could maintain control. That ends today." Dad finally spoke, voice small. "Sweetheart, your mother just got carried away. Let's not blow this up. We can fix it privately." I pushed the folder closer. "There's no fixing this privately. The bank already knows. There's an open investigation." Mom's eyes widened, the color draining from her face. "You did what?" she whispered. "I reported the fraud. The accounts are frozen. The bank has your signature, your phone number, your address. You'll be hearing from them soon." Silence followed, thick enough to taste. Even the low hum of the diner seemed to fade, as if the air itself was holding its breath. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "You're destroying this family over a misunderstanding." "No, Mom," I said, standing. "You destroyed it the moment you decided my name was worth more than my love." I left the cash for my coffee on the table and walked out before she could answer. Outside, the air smelled like rain. I sat in my car, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My hands shook, but my chest felt light, almost hollow, the kind of hollow that could be filled with peace. That night, Cherry Creek glittered in purple and silver, the big night for Avery's Sweet 16. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. I already knew how it would end. At 8:45 p.m., my phone rang. An unknown number, I answered. Miss Reed, a crisp female voice said. This is Lauren Stein, legal representative for Capital One in Colorado. I'm calling to inform you the bank has escalated your fraud report. Our internal team has coordinated with local law enforcement to verify transactions tonight at Cherry Creek events. You are not required to attend, but we wanted to notify you. My throat tightened. You're sending police to the venue? Yes, ma'am, standard procedure. We'll document and confirm the charges. I thanked her, hung up, and leaned back. Through the open window, faint music drifted from downtown, the sound of a celebration on the verge of unraveling. 40 minutes later, my phone buzzed again, a text from Avery. Are you insane? The police just showed up. The DJ stopped, everyone staring, mom's freaking out. Then another. They're saying her name. The bank guy said your name. What did you do? I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Across town, 2 officers stepped into the glowing banquet hall. No sirens, no chaos, just calm authority slicing through the neon haze. A banker followed, carrying a thick folder filled with receipts and contracts. Good evening, one officer said, voice firm and even. We're here to verify a report of credit card fraud associated with this event. The charges were made using an account under the name Elena Monroe. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cameras lifted. My mother froze near the cake table, color draining from her face. There must be a mistake, she stammered, voice trembling. The banker opened the folder and read aloud. Primary applicant, Linda M. Reed. Cosigner, unauthorized. Transaction records indicate misuse of another person's identity. Gasps swept through the room. Someone whispered, Isn't that her daughter's name? Mom's lips parted, but no sound came. Avery stood frozen in the center of the floor, eyes glistening. Mom, what did you do? She whispered. The officer's voice remained calm. We're not arresting anyone tonight. This is documentation for the bank's case. But we'll need to take copies of the receipts and ID verification. In the silence that followed, only the flicker of camera flashes filled the room, half the guests capturing it, half pretending not to. Within minutes, the DJ unplugged his equipment. The banner reading Avery's Sweet 16, Born to Shine, drooped under the humid air. The room emptied in slow waves of whispers and pity. By the time my mother stepped outside, rain had begun to fall soft, relentless. Back in my apartment, I stood by the window, watching lightning pulse over the city. I didn't smile. I didn't cheer. I simply let the quiet wrap around me. The sound of justice, subtle and absolute. For years, I had believed silence meant weakness. That night, I realized it could mean victory. 3 days later, the storm had passed, but the wreckage remained. An email arrived from Capital One. Fraud investigation resolved. Primary applicant Linda M. Reed has acknowledged unauthorized use and agreed to repay $8,412 in full. One sentence. No apology, no drama, just the truth. Finally, on paper. Word spread fast. In a suburb like Littleton, gossip travels faster than justice. People whispered in grocery aisles. At church. Did you hear about the Reeds? Something with a bank at the Sweet 16. Avery's party video captured 30 seconds of chaos. Police, disbelief, and flashing lights 500,000 views before she managed to lock her accounts. My father was quietly reprimanded at work for letting their mail and financial statements go to his company address. For once, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't reply to any messages, not out of anger, but out of exhaustion. I was done explaining what should have been obvious. I filled out the FTC forms, froze my credit, and closed every account my mother had ever touched. Then I printed the final confirmation letter and pinned it on my wall beside my framed diploma and the locksmith's receipt. 3 documents, side by side. Proof of effort, proof of protection, Proof of freedom. That night, I brewed tea, opened the window, and let Denver's night air spill in. The city hummed below, alive, indifferent. For the first time, the silence didn't hurt. It healed. 6 months later, autumn settled over Denver streets. Gold leaves drifting on crisp, forgiving air. I had started a new job at Nova Data Labs, surrounded by people who saw me for what I built, not for what I could give. On my wall hung 3 objects: my diploma, my new employee badge, and the old lock I once replaced. Together, they told one story: how I finally chose myself. If you've ever had to set a boundary just to breathe again, you're not alone. Tell me where you're watching from, so I know how many of us finally changed the locks.